welcome to another segment of this subject course, strategic management. For some time now, we've been going through this subject matter. We have dealt with what strategic management is and what strategic operations is. We've tried to look at operation strategy formulation, especially looking at the HEAL framework for operations on strategy formulation. And I told you as we were going through this course that it comprises of 5 steps. That is corporate objectives. Decision of the corporate is what that will lead to the next stage, that is the next step, that is marketing strategy. So it's what the marketing strategy put in place from the corporate objectives that will harmonize how the products will win orders in the marketplace. And from there right now, we begin to look at the delivery system, that is structural decisions that make a delivery system choice to be made. Not only that, we'll look at the infrastructure choice, that is infrastructural decisions. And from there, we move to the lean operation, whereby we look at how to eliminate waste. And if we are to eliminate waste, everyone has to be involved. That is involvement of everyone. Then we look at CI, that is continuous improvement, and implementing lean. Then we'll discuss on business processing re-engineering, what a term to be BPR, the implemented business processes redesign. And later on, we went to enterprise resource planning, ERP, whereby we look at the manufacturing requirements planning, manufacturing resource planning. We look at the ERP, we look at the web integrated aspects that need to be put into consideration. So we look at the quality, defining the product's quality, defining the service quality, the total quality management, and then we move to agile operations. And in that agile operation, we're trying to look at the supply of the chain, that is the lean supply and chains, and then how the two are combined, that is the legality. So we look at all those various ones, and in that process too, I give you an assignment that you are to submit. Having looked at all those ones, we'll be going to looking at the project management today. Project management. And project management, we'll be looking at that projects are unique. Every project is unique on its own. One-time operation designed to accomplish a specific set of objectives in a limited time frame. Trying to look at every project. Every project is unique on its own. So what I'm saying here right now is that projects are unique, and they have a time of frame. They have a limited time frame to be done, to be executed. Historically, associated with either large construction type activities or the introduction of new products and processes. Under the mass production era until the 1980s, products and process life cycles were relatively long, aimed at mass markets. So project development costs and time only a small proportion of product costs. However, in recent years, the ability to manage projects has become more important for operation managers. Beloved, I won't deceive you. This aspect has come up in a way that it becomes very vital, becomes very important for operational managers. So not all project problems are the execution stage, but may relate to the process of identifying possible projects and making an appropriate selection of projects to execute. So therefore, problems include taking on too many projects for the resources available and not aligning individual projects with the organization strategy. Projects, therefore, projects ideas, therefore, should be initiated from different organization areas. For example, from operations, from marketing, from engineering, even from the aspect of finance, and external sources such as customers, suppliers, and competitors should be a benchmarking to provide the greatest fit mix of ideas. The aim should be to pick the best portfolio of projects, not necessarily that the best individual projects as their objectives and use of resources may conflict, and there should be care be taken. As such, care must be taken against spreading the most skilled staff across too many projects. If not, they won't put in their best, their maximum cannot be seen when the project, when you bring those who are skillful and you give them too many things to do at the same time. Project completion times are often unrealistic due to not taking into account capacity available, the availability, usually people's time, and the number of other projects ongoing at any one time. Projects have different characteristics that require different approaches. Projects may range from small enhancement of current processes to major changes in process design or development of products for new markets. Experienced project managers are required for breakthrough projects. So, because in these, like I've said right now, projects may range from small enhancements of current processes to major changes in process design, and not only the development of products for new markets. Therefore, experienced project managers are required for breakthrough projects. There should be a formal process for project selection, so they are chosen on the basis of overall strategy rather than for political reasons. Senior management should provide coordination between projects and make available suitable human resources. Management should abandon projects that are failing due to technical or market barriers, overlap with other projects, or have failed to meet objectives. So by this one round, I will be looking at some few things. Number one, executing projects. Executing projects under project management. These three things have to be put into consideration. These following elements of project execution should be considered. Project definition and scoping. Anytime projects that is to be done on hand is not defined and the scope being laid out, there's tendency for distortion and then not meeting up with the project. So project definition and scoping very important. Number two, organization of project teams, because there must be team that will be able to handle these projects. You must know those who to be involved for every department that need to be part of that team. So organization of project teams very important. Estimate, planning, and control activities is very, very vital to be able to know, to be able to forecast, to be able to make provisions for what needs to be done, how it can be achieved at the scope of time that have been worked given. So project definition and scoping. Let's consider that. Projects require a clear definition. It must not be too ambiguous. Projects require a clear definition and boundary to time, what should be included and what should not, what should be outside the scope of the project. So if the scope and the definition and the scope has been given, you don't go outside it. You look at it holistically, how this thing can be achieved on or before the stipulated time. So scoping the project is very important when at sourcing, as disputes can occur if the project does not have a clear definition. Because where there's clear definition, you know that you don't go outside that boundary, you don't go outside that scope. It's properly defined, then you know what you needed, you know those who are involved, you know those who are you are bringing in, you know what to do at a particular time. So therefore, definition may be made by detailed evaluation at the start of the project or evolve through a process of interaction with the customer during development. This is very, very important. When you know it, it helps you to know whom to meet, what is the age group, who are the people, who are the targets that you want this project to affect. So the moment you have known it, it is very helpful to you. For example, if you want to meet the need of the pregnant people, you know that the scope will be around that area. What are their needs? And how many people are you trying to look at? Which location? What are their needs? What are the provision you want to make available? And if it's toddlers, you know. If it's adolescent, you know. Then you know the provision, you know the area of your target. So organization or project teams. There are three main ways of structuring project teams within the organization. The project structure. The project structure consists of organization which not only follows a theme approach to projects, but has an organizational structure formed specifically for projects. These are best suited when there is a need for a high degree of cross-functional cooperation in the project for those people who are involved. Another aspect you need to consider among these three aspects of the project teams is the functional structure. The functional structure. Here, a project is given to the most appropriate functional department. Thus, organizational structure remains in the standard hierarchical form. These are best suited when in-depth functional expertise is important, because expertise will always be required, will be needed. And when it's not being placed on the hand of those who had expertise, that is functional expertise, the project might not have a better landing. So the third one is matrix structure. The matrix structure, here a series of project teams are overlaid on a functional structure in an effort to provide a balance between functional and the project needs. This provides a compromise between the pure project and the functional structures. So now we have to consider the estimate and planning control activities. Very, very important, because if the estimate and planning and how to control the activities of the project and the people are involved are not put in place, yes, people are bound not to arrive at the better part of the project. Project estimation involves estimating the type and amount of resources required to undertake a project. Very vital. Resource constrained project. If highly specialized resources are required, then the project completion date may have to be set to ensure these resources are not overloaded. Time constraint project, there is a need to complete a project in a specific time frame. Alternative resources may have to be utilized to ensure timely project completion. The next step is to generate estimates for the time and resources required to undertake each task defined in the project. So there must be time and resources. If there's no time, lag, and resources that need to be set and to make the project to be completed at the right time, then the project will not have a very good landing. This information can be used to plan what resources are required at a particular time, what activities should be undertaken over the life cycle of the project. Once the activities have been identified and their resources requirements estimated, it is necessary to define their relationship to one another. There are some activities that can only begin when other activities has been completed. Very, very important. If some activities have not been completed, there's no way it can be done. So until it is being done. For example, maybe in bookmaking right now, if the hardcover has not been made, there's no way lamination can take place. So there are so many things that not until a certain part of the project is completed, the next one cannot take place. So there are various projects like that that could be done. The purpose of the planning stage is to ensure that the project objectives of cost, time, and quality are met. It does this by estimating both the level and timing of resources needed over the project duration. These steps may need to be undertaken repeatedly in a complex project due to uncertainties and to accommodate changes as the project progresses. Therefore, project control involves the monitoring of the project objectives of cost, time, quality as the project progresses. If there's no control, there will be a problem. So what project control does is to monitor the project objectives of costs, time, and quality. Because quality is very, very important. Maybe in the production of drugs or any of this right now, people need to go through, they and check per time. Both people from the lab, they need to come and check and find out the viscosity, how things are with, we on the line, the packaging, everything. If it's not checked, some could go that way, and then they might not be for the quality that is required. So it is important to monitor and assess performance as the project progresses in order that the project does not deviate from plans to a large extent. So milestones or time events are defined during the project when performance against objectives can be measured. So very, very important. Let's look at network analysis. Network analysis refers to the use of network-based techniques for the analysis and management of projects. This section describes two network analysis techniques of the critical path method and the program evaluation and review technique. The main difference between the approaches is the ability of the path, that is the program evaluation and review technique, to take into consideration uncertainty in activity duration. Very, very important. So the critical path, that is CPM, critical path diagrams are used extensively to show the activities undertaken during a project and the dependencies between these activities. A completed network will consist of a number of nodes connected by lines, one for each task, between a start and the end node. So once the network diagram has been constructed, it is possible to follow the sequence of activities called a path through the network from start to the end. The diagram is very, very important from one node to another. A moment is seen, you begin to look at it. Where do we need to be now? Where is this one supposed to be now? Then it will follow sequential order. The part with the longest duration gives the project completion time. This is called the critical path because any change in duration in any activities on this path will cause the whole project duration to either become shorter or longer. Very, very important. So let's look at this 4 steps to show how to identify the critical path. Look at these 4 areas now when you are looking at the critical path. The following steps could be put into consideration. We show for you to identify the critical path. Calculate the earliest start, finishing times. Calculate what? The earliest start and finish times. That is forward pass. Then calculate the latest start, finish times, backward pass. Calculate the slack and float times, and then identify the critical path. Come to think of it now, there must be at least one critical path through the network, but there can be more than one. There can be more than one, but there must be one critical path through the network. The significance of this critical path is that if any node on the path finishes later than the earliest finish time, the overall network time will increase. Schedule. Any planning and control activities should focus on ensuring tasks on the critical path remain within schedule. So Gantt chart provides an overview for the project manager. To allow them to monitor project progress against planned progress and to provide what might be for the project manager to allow them to monitor project progress against planned progress, and so provides a valuable information source for project control. So within any project, there will be a number of time cost trade-offs to consider. Don't forget this, within any project, there will be a number of time cost or trade-offs to consider. Most projects will have tasks which can be completed with an injection. An injection, additional resources such as equipment or people. Reasons to reduce project completion time include: number 1, reduce high and indirect costs associated with equipment. Very, very vital. Reduce new product development time to market. Avoid penalties for late completion. Gain incentives for early completion. Release resources for other projects. Very, very important. The use of additional resources, therefore, is to reduce project completion time. It's time crashing the project. What do I call it now? I said the use of additional resources to reduce project completion time is time crashing the project. Crashing the project. So we'll go to project evaluation and review technique, PERT, P-E-R-T, project evaluation and review technique. So project evaluation and review technique approach attempts to take into account the fact that most task durations are not fixed, but vary when they are executed. That's why sometimes until you go to the field, there's some certain things that you cannot say emphatically that this is what will happen, because it could vary when you get to the executing ground. So therefore, the project evaluation and review technique provides a way of incorporating risk into project schedules. The probabilistic approach involves 3 estimates for each activity of optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely. What do I call it? Optimistic. I said activity of optimistic, activity of pessimistic, and activity most likely. So benefits and limitations of network analysis. In terms of benefits, the approach requirements require a structural analysis of the number and sequence of tasks contained within a project. So aiding an understanding of resource requirements for project completion. Therefore, it provides a number of useful graphical displays which assist understanding of such factors as a project dependencies and resource loading. So in essence, what I'm saying is that it gives a reasonable estimate of the project duration and the tasks which must be completed on time to meet this duration, i.e., like I've made you to realize on the critical part. The network as a control mechanism to monitor actual progress against planned progress on the Gantt chart. It can be used to provide cost estimates for different projects scenarios. So therefore, as I conclude this aspect, project management, in terms of limitations of path and simulation techniques may reduce time estimation errors, but at the cost of greater complexity, which may divert management time away from more important issues. Time estimates for tasks may be greater than necessary to provide managers with slack to ensure they meet deadlines. The deadlines of what I term to be sandbagging. So, or too short for a realistic estimate, blue skies. Therefore, the method assumes activities are the independent. Actually, the duration of one activity may be dependent on the duration for another. The method assumes a precise breaking point between activities. In reality, therefore, one activity may start before a predecessor activity has finished. Activities just off the critical path may become critical after it is too late to do anything about them. Very important. So we'll be looking at this now, the structural decision. Like I told you, when I was sharing with you in operational strategy formulation, when I was teaching you on HEAL framework for operation strategy. I said step 4, there's a delivery system choice called structural decision. So what does it mean? In this chapter, we'll be looking at how structural decision areas which need to be aligned with the operations strategy. Now let's look at the process types. Process types are ways of describing the general approach taken to designing and managing processes. They are based on 2 important factors in process design: the volume and variety of the products and services that an organization processes. Most processes operate on continuum from combination of low volume, high variety through to a combination of high volume, low variety. The continuum can be represented by a graph of a diagonal line termed the natural diagonal by Hairs and Wheelwright from their research and submission in 1984, which represent the natural line of fit. Most processes should lie close to this line, which represent a fit between the process and its volume variety position. So when we are looking at the process types, is describing the general approach taken to designing and managing processes. And I said they are based on two important factors in process design, that is the volume and variety of the products and services that are an organization processes. Therefore, manufacturing process types. In manufacturing, process types can be considered under the 5 categories of project: jobbing, batch, mass, and continuous. If we're looking at the project, processes that produce products of high variety and low volume are termed projects. Project processes are used to make a one-off product to a customer specification. When there's a customer's need, what project is being used for in this process is that is being given to a particular customer for a specific product. A feature of a project that the location of the product is stationary. Jobbing means processes that produce products of high variety and low volume are termed jobbing. Jobbing processes are used to make a one-off, that is low volume, product to a customer specification. So a feature of a jobbing process is that the product moves to the location of transforming processes such as equipment. Is one time off. So batch, processes that produce products of medium variety and medium volume are termed batch. The size of batch or group can range from 1 to hundreds. A feature of batch processes is that because it is difficult to predict when a batch of work will arrive at a machine. A lack of coordination can lead to many products waiting for that machine at one time. So that is why sometimes there are batches that need to be done for products. So what I'm trying to let you understand here is this. When it comes to batch, processes that produce products of medium variety and medium volume are termed batch. The size of a batch or group can range from 1 to hundreds. And a feature of batch processes is that because it is difficult to predict when a batch of work will arrive at a machine, a lack of coordination can lead to many products waiting for that machine at any one time. So then when we are looking at mass, this is processes that produce products of high volume and low variety are termed the line of mass processes. Although there may be variance within the product design, the production processes will essentially be the same for all the products because they are being mass produced. Because of the high volumes of product, it is cost effective to use specialized labor and equipment. So the continuous here means that processes that operate continually to produce a very high volume of a standard product are termed continuous, because the product is something that is continuous to be, when it's going to be produced, is on. The products produced by a continuous operation are usually a continuous flow, such as oil and gas. Continuous processes use a large amount of equipment specialized and dedicated to producing a single product. So it will be there. It's not just a one-time off. Service process types. 3 Service process types: professional service, service shop, and mass service are categorized in terms of their ability to cope with different volume and variety characteristics. So we'll just look at these and then we'll round up for today. Professional service. Professional service processes operate with high variety and low volume. They are characterized by high levels of customization. In that each service delivery will be tailored to meet individual customer needs. The customization requires communication between the service provider and customer, and so professional services are characterized by high levels of customer contact and relatively high proportion of staff supplying the service in relation to customers. The emphasis in a professional service is on delivery, a process rather than a tangible product associated with a process. So service shop processes operate with a medium amount of variety and volume. There will be a certain amount of customization of the service, but not as extensive as in professional services. Therefore, will be a mix of staff and equipment used to deliver the service. There's an emphasis both on the service delivery process itself and many tangible items that are associated with the service. And when you look at the mass service processes operate with a low variety and a high volume. There will be little customization of the service to individual customer needs and limited contact between the customer and people providing the service. Because the service is standardized, it is likely that the equipment will be used to improve the efficiency of the service delivery process. So the emphasis here in the mass service is on the tangible item that is associated with the service delivery. This one will take us to the layout types. Layout types are ways of describing the physical location or position of the resources in processes. They are based partly on the volume and variety of the products and services that are in that organizational processes. Other factors include a need to minimize movement of material or people to encourage more communication between the employees. There are 4 basic layout types of fixed position processes: cell and product layout. There is often a choice of layout types for a particular process type, such as a process layout or cell layout for batch processes types. In this case, the choice will depend on the characteristics of the layout type that are particularly relevant for the product or service that is to be delivered. The characteristics of each of the layout types will now be considered. Now, if we are now looking at it, we look at fixed position layout, because there are some fixed position. This layout is used when the product or service cannot be moved, and to the transformation or transforming processes that must take place in the location of product creation or service delivery. Therefore, in a fixed position layout, all resources for producing the product, such as equipment and labor, must move to the site of the product or service. The emphasis, therefore, when using a fixed position layout is on the scheduling and the coordination of resources to ensure that they are available in the required amount at the required time. So process layout. A process layout, also termed a functional layout, is one in which resources such as as equipment and people which have similar processes or function are grouped together. Process layouts are used when there is a large variety in the products or services being delivered, and it may not be feasible to dedicate facilities to each individual product or service. So therefore, a process layout allows the products or customers to move to each group of resources in turn based on their individual requirements. Because of their flexibility, process layouts are widely used. One advantage is that in service system, they allow a wide variety of routes that may be chosen by customers depending on their needs. Another advantage is that the product or service range may be extended, and as long as no new resources are required, they may be accommodated within the current layout. Cell layout. A cell layout attempts to combine the efficiency of a product layout with the flexibility of a process layout. Cells are created from placing together resources, which service is a subset of the total range of products or services. Therefore, when grouping products or services together in this way, the grouping is termed a family. The process of grouping the products or services to create a family is termed group technology. Creating cells within dedicated resources can significantly reduce the time it takes for products and services to pass through the process by reducing queuing time. It also offers the opportunity for automation due to the close proximity of the processes. Now, I'll be asking us at this point, we'll be reading on this facility location and what could be done, and then we'll continue from the next lecture. So you read up, and I'll be giving you assignment now to read through these processes and then send it to Henronche at Gmail. Now, one vital thing I still want to give to you is for you to read through these things and then you give me feedback as much as possible. So you read through the structural decision, and then I want you to go through infrastructural decisions, read over it, and then you'll be able to give me, send it to me as your assignment, read through, deliberate on it, and work on it, and you'll be able to get across to me and ask your questions. Can I give opportunity to you right now to ask questions so far what we have done right now? Yes. You can raise up your hand. I will be expecting your question because we'll be bringing these to a close in a short while. We'll be bringing it to a close. If you're having questions, yes, come up with your questions now so that we can look into it and proffer and answer your questions. Come up with your questions now. Come up with your questions. We'll be bringing this to a close now.